everybody, and welcome to Thankful Thursday again. So this week it's just me, Kel, as Rachel's away at the moment. And hopefully, as you've all already noticed, at the moment what the channel's doing is we're working through basically a 4-week programme of questions. So if you go onto our website, and I'll put that in the box whichever side that's on, if you go onto our website, if you haven't done already, you'll see sort of the list of the questions that we'll be looking at over the next few weeks. And so my question today is, how do I recognise and deal with negative comments and criticisms in positive ways? So I think that for those of us with an eating disorder, I can see this question kind of applying in two ways. Firstly, it applies to sort of the external negative criticism that other people give to us, but then also the negative self-criticism in our head, so that constant sort of negative self-talk that so many of us experience. So I think firstly it's important that we kind of consider the difference between what negative criticism is and what constructive feedback is. So constructive feedback might be somebody saying something like, this could possibly be improved if you did this, and negative criticism would be, that's rubbish. So the difference is firstly the language. Criticism sort of uses absolute sentences like, that's rubbish, you are lazy, you are horrible, something like that, and it uses words like are and should, so really certain words. Whereas if it's constructive, it might use words like might or maybe and things like that. The other things with negative criticisms are how they're intended. They're not intended in a way that allows us to change something. They're direct statements that aren't in any way constructive. So we can't do anything with that information. They're just not helpful in any way. They're directed solely at our self-esteem and self-confidence. So the more we hear them, the more it hurts our self-esteem, the less confidence we feel. And they're not truthful. That was the last thing I wanted to say. I was just trying to remember what it was then. So they're not truthful. They're not based on any sort of evidence. They're absolute clear statements which suggest they are facts when they are absolutely not facts at all. So that's what I consider negative criticism to be. So how do we deal with people being negatively critical towards us? I think it depends who the person is firstly. So if it might be a family member or a friend, then you could perhaps say to them, that hurt my feelings because. And the chances are that when a friend or a family member, somebody that loves you, says something that's critical of you, it's because of their own feelings and not their feelings towards you. So they might be feeling upset or angry with something, and you just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and you do something very minorly wrong. I don't know, say you knock over a drink can, somebody's knee-jerk reaction to you is to say you are stupid. Well, obviously knocking over a drink doesn't make you stupid, but they're feeling something that they needed to express, and you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time. So in that type of situation, I think it's good to say, that hurt my feelings because, and explain why it hurt your feelings. They might not at the time take that on board because they're feeling hurt or angry or something themselves, but once they've calmed down, they might realise what you actually said to them and think, oh, okay, that was out of order, and they might come and apologise to you. I mean, they might not, but I think it's important that you say that. And it's also about acknowledging your right to not be spoken to like that as well. I think that's important. If it's somebody else, if it's, I don't know, say a school bully or somebody that's being nasty to you, that isn't a loved one basically, I think that firstly it's good to not get angry toward them, because if you get angry at them and you start shouting back at them, it's just going to turn into a slanging match, and you're going to be throwing these critical statements back at each other, between each other, and you're just going to get more hurt and more upset, and that's just not useful at all. Well, it is okay to feel angry. It's certainly okay to feel angry and hurt and upset if somebody says something negative, but just don't throw it back at them in that way, because that's just not useful. I think in that type of situation, the best thing that you can do is just walk away from it. And I'm not suggesting that you walk away and push this feeling back inside you and ignore it, because I think you need to look at what they said as well. But I think it's good that you just say, whatever, fine, walk away, and you don't engage in what could become a huge argument with this person. So once you've walked away, I think it's important for you to think about the statement that they said. So, okay, they said this to me, is it true? And it's going to probably be a sentence that isn't true, a negative statement that isn't true, but I want you to look at it for a reason. I'm asking you to look at the statement, because if you don't look at it and you just push it inside and you think, oh, that's just silly, so I'm not going to listen to it, at the same time you're not looking at it, so a little part of you might believe it, and the more times people say it and a little bit of part of you believes it, then the more you're going to believe it over time. So do go away, but think about it. Maybe even write it down. Okay, this person said this to me. And then look at the evidence. Is what they said true? And consider why it's not true. So, I don't know, pick a statement that somebody said to you that's negatively critical of you and write it down, and then find reasons why it's not true. I'm not stupid because I do good at school, or I'm not stupid because I can do this or I can do that, whatever it might be, you get the idea. So I think it's good to do that and to keep reminding yourself of that. And because if you don't do that, it's going to just, your thought process is going to pick up on this statement, particularly if it's being said to you over and over again. And if your brain picks up at it, and then it's sort of this little seed planted in your head, and all it's going to do is it's going to start feeding your eating disordered thoughts. Even if you didn't believe it was true originally, you hear something enough and it's difficult to ignore it. So once it's planted in your head, and then you're saying it over and over and you can't ignore it anymore. So do look at the statement. So kind of that moved us a little bit on to the negative self-talk, so we'll move on to that.